Hey, I'm Afterglow, and this video is the first in a series of tutorials covering every aspect of TF2 jumping. And for the first video, I'm going to talk a bit about why TF2 jumping. Basically, why get into it, why spend all the time, why do people spend all the time. And I think there's a few reasons why people can get so hooked on jumping. And speaking from personal experience, I mean, I've played this game for like 3 years now, where TF2 jumping was basically the only thing I did. Like, I don't pub, I don't play competitive, I basically just jump and that's it. And a lot of people don't really understand why they view jumping as something that's pretty cool, but it's like not part of the game. And I see a lot of comments about how, when they see someone with more than 4 rockets jumping around, they're like, oh, that's not realistic. That's not the actual game. You don't have more than 4 rockets when you're playing the game, so what's the point of even doing this? And to all those people, I just want to say, the point of TF2 jumping is that really you got to understand that it's a game in of itself. And in this regard, I would relate it a lot to surfing, which is pretty prevalent in Counter-Strike and TF2. I mean, in surfing, the air acceleration is a lot higher than the vanilla game. And I mean, right off the bat, the setting is completely different. It's not meant to be realistic to what the game developers intended, so to speak. And I mean, at least jumping, the settings are all the same. It's just you have a lot of health and a lot of ammo, basically, and you're jumping around on the jump map. So yeah, jumping is all about jumping. It's not about getting better at pubbing. It's not about getting better at competitive. You jump to jump, and that's all there is to it, really. And another reason I think people get into jumping is that it can be really challenging at times. And I mean, speaking from personal experience, I've put in thousands of hours in TF2 jumping, and I mean, all of the top jumpers have done so as well. There's really no shortcut to getting good. It takes a lot of time and practice. And I mean, why do challenging things appeal to people? I mean, that's just a question that's been answered thousands of times elsewhere. It's just satisfying to achieve goals and achieve things that you strive for. And I think in TF2 jumping, it's really easy to fabricate your own goals. I mean, you can break it down map by map. I want to beat this map, or going beyond that, I want to beat this map in a certain time. I want to be fast at it. And I think the holy grail of achievements in TF2 jumping is being able to flawless a map, basically just going through the entire jump map without failing at all. And doing so can really take a lot of time. I mean, a lot of top jumpers spend hours just trying to get the flawless run. And when they do, it's just really satisfying to get. I mean, you can share it with your other jumper friends, and it turns out to be pretty exciting once it's achieved. And I mean, there's more just than speedrunning. I mean, there's trick jumping. That's another big aspect to TF2 jumping. Achieving a really hard trick jump, that's so awesome to achieve. And I mean, evidently, people really like watching jump movies, so that gives reasons for jumpers to find and do really hard trick jumps. A third reason I think people get into jumping is that it can be really fun to explore. And what I mean by that is exploring the game physics and game mechanics. I mean, the jumpers have found so many bugs. I mean, edge bugs, wall bugs, jump bugs. I mean, many of these bugs have existed in other source games previously, but there are some new ones. And I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of fun exploring what the game can do and what you can do in it. It's hard to articulate why exploring in a game can be so fun. I mean, when you look at other games, and there's a big speedrunner community out there for a lot of games, and a lot of speedrunning comes down to glitches and breaking the game, so to speak. I think jumping is much of the same way, where jump maps focus around the mechanics of the game and really exploring what the mechanics allow you to do. I mean, in vanilla TF2, for instance, I don't think you can do like a triple rocket sink, really. I mean, maybe there are maps where it's possible, but I mean, really in TF2 jump mapping, that's really where the concept of sinking, multiple rockets has been explored, for instance. And another reason that I got into jumping is that the movement feels really good, and that may sound pretty confusing to some people, but sometimes certain games have really terrible controls and really unintuitive movement, and TF2 jumping is definitely the opposite, where everything just feels really clean and really satisfying, like traveling through a map with rockets or stickies. It just feels really satisfying. And in fact, when I think about all the games that I really enjoy playing and watching, they all have something in common, which is just movement-based skill. And I'm talking about games like Quake or Half-Life or Counter-Strike, where you can really outplay your opponent just by movement alone. And I think a large aspect to that is really just in the air strafing, which to those who don't know is basically just controlling your player while airborne. And I almost feel like it's an unintentional feature of Source, or rather almost a bug, and they just did not bother to fix it. And for that, I'm pretty grateful that they've kept that mechanic in all their Source games. So yeah, that about wraps up my personal reasons for why jumping is so fun for me. I'm sure other people have other reasons for jumping. I mean, a lot of people probably got into jumping because their friends did it, or I know a lot of people think that jumping is really relaxing, and that's definitely something I would agree with. It's a pretty nice stress relief, just hopping in a server and playing a few maps here and there. And one final thing I want to point out is that the jump community in TF2 is definitely not the first jump community in a video game. I mean, just looking at TF2's predecessor, really, Team Fortress Classic, there was a huge conch scene, I remember. It was definitely pretty fun. I was kind of too young to really remember it, though. But I remember hopping in on conch maps and failing miserably at it. I mean, going beyond TFC, there was Halo trick jumping. Counter-Strike was a huge one with KZ and bunny hopping. I mean, this right here is a clip of me logging into Counter-Strike and trying to bunny hop map after years of not playing it, and it's funny that the movement is still so intuitive to me. So yeah, whether you've never really tried jumping and been kind of curious about it, or you're experienced and just want to learn a bit more about it, then look forward to the following videos.